Can you talk a little about the excitement of playing in a Super Bowl?
Well, as a player, you go into the league, number one, being happy to get there. And once you get there, you set your goals to eventually play in the Super Bowl. And I was fortunate enough to have an opportunity to play in the Super Bowl. And I tell you, as far as your career goes, there's no better feeling than being in the top of your profession and being in the top of the game for that year. And playing the Super Bowl, to me, is what they call putting the icing on the whole cake. And then nothing left but to eat it. And I'm doing that now, being retired, and sit back and take it all in.
I first interviewed Doug Williams when I was working in Orlando covering the Buccaneers for radio and TV stations there. By the time I got to 970 WFLA radio in Tampa, where I co-hosted a Buccaneers pregame show with the late, great Leroy Selman, Doug had left Tampa, had played a couple years in the USFL, had returned to the NFL and led the Redskins to a Super Bowl, and had retired. Buccaneer fans, meanwhile, were in the midst of suffering through 14 consecutive losing seasons. 14. This interview was recorded during the build-up to Super Bowl 27, and for most of it we talked about Doug's experience in the Super Bowl and the upcoming game between the Cowboys and Bills, and most of that stuff is really dated now. I did not include it. This is really for the long-suffering Tampa Bay fans. What you're about to hear are the last two questions and answers which focused on Tampa Bay. Now, Doug really played it close to the vest when it came to talking about Tampa Bay. He usually took the high road, which in my mind was kind of unfortunate because this man had every right to verbally shred the Buccaneers and owner Hugh Culverhouse and the inept front office. You can chalk up his departure from Tampa to three things. One, stupidity. I mean, not only was letting Doug leave Tampa an incredibly stupid move, but this organization under Culverhouse made more boneheaded decisions than you would think humanly possible outside of Congress, maybe. Two, Culverhouse was a cheapskate. I mean, deep pockets, but short arms when it came to his football team. In his fifth and final season with the Buccaneers, Williams was getting paid less than most backup quarterbacks in the NFL. All he was asking for was fair market value, and Culverhouse refused to pay. Three, racism. Not just Culverhouse, but the NFL. I mean, black players were generally paid less, had far less opportunities, and black quarterbacks, forget about it. Doug talked about it in his book, Quarter Black. There again, he probably pulled his punches, probably because he knew that he wanted to coach and that the NFL would likely blackball him if he spoke out too loudly. My personal choice is D, all of the above. Now, we didn't talk about racism during this interview, but we did touch briefly on the curse. And though his responses were a bit guarded and fairly short, it said a lot about Doug's true feelings about Tampa Bay, I think. And, of course, it was delivered with that wonderful Doug Williams smile.
The Buccaneers still a long way away from the Super Bowl. Big topic of conversation over there these days is the status of Vinny Testaverde. Could be a free agent. In your opinion, can Vinny make it as a quarterback with the Buccaneers, or would he be better off to go somewhere else at this point?
I think as far as my opinion goes, and talking about the Bucs, it'd probably be best not to have an opinion. So I'm not going to deal with that one.
One last question. Did you indeed put a hex on the Bucs when you left us?
You know, if I had the power to put a hex on the Bucs, what I would have done before I left, I would have put a hex on Mr. C's pocketbook, and I'd have got the money that I wanted. I know would have left Tampa.
And that would have been great for Buccaneer fans if he had never left